Hello, everyone,
Hi everyone.
and welcome back to our YouTube channel, Sisterly Conversation, where now we'll be picking a topic:
Let's see what it is.
growing up in a blended family. So, I will start first. For me personally, it was good growing up in a blended family. Everybody's your sibling, biologically, and you get to tell on your big sister and your big brother and your other big sister. Right, so I'm the last. You guys might not have known
You're the
this.
baby.
I'm the baby of the family. I'm the one who has both parents in the family home. And growing up, it was just great because I got to tell on everybody. I get everybody in trouble. I also got in trouble too for my road mouth. But sometimes to being the last baby, I have a certain sister who's next to me who used to like bossing me around, and she still thinks she does. She can rather, but she can't because we're now grown adults. But my sister was very protective of me. Am, still is. Sorry, wrong English. Still is, and
I
you
think
know,
you're whistling nice. You hear a whistling nice?
yeah,
Sounds weird. Okay, continue.
right. Yeah, it sounds like a helicopter or something. So
No, like some.
I know. Anyways, right. Going back to this story. So yeah, my sister Shanita is very protective, and she was always taught by my mom. Tony's your little sister, gonna protect you. And I'm very grateful to my sister, and both my brother and other sister. They're protective of me too, and stuff like that. So for me personally, I enjoy being the baby of the family. It does have its advantages and disadvantages because everybody still sees you as a little one. But other than that, you get all the attention and you get all the attention. You hear, oh, she's just the baby. Left she alone. So other than that, that's it for me as being in a blended family.
Well, my experience growing up in a blended family was a little different because I am different in the sense that Tony, like she said, she had a biological mother and father. For me, I have my stepdad, and I actually my mother actually moved in with my father. And in the Caribbean, we don't really say like I don't know how it is with other. I think in America they say half sister and what a step whatever. We just say mother, father, sister, brother if that's the family you grew up with. Okay, in the Caribbean, at least that is what it is for me. So my mother actually moved in with my dad when I was around, I believe it was like 17 months or something like that. So I was still a baby, still in diapers, and that's when I actually came to my family. So technically, it's almost like it's not a blended family, even though it is, because I came to the family when I was very young with my mother. So and we grew up with it was it was three girls and one boy, and we grew up in that family straight through until adulthood. Um, and of course, there were times that it had its challenges and so on and so forth. But for the most part, we had pretty much an equal opportunity growing up in the same family. We all had the same things going on. And as for me personally, I felt very, very a part of the family. My dad, along with my mom, but I'm speaking of my dad because he's my stepdad. He um he was there for me for everything pretty much. Like, if I had choir when I was in secondary school, brownies when I was in primary school, um, everything that I could think of, he supported my mother with it. So of course that's my dad. Um, I was in contact with my biological father for on and off. It was an on and off situation. And I also stayed in contact with my family from my biological father's side. I would visit them and stuff. So obviously, like I still knew because there's some people that grew up in a blended family that they don't really have a relationship with their family from the other side, or they don't really know their family from that other side. But for me, I was fortunate enough to know my biological father's side of the family, and I was able to visit them, stay over. When I was younger, like I stayed every other weekend over at their house and so on and so forth. So, but then obviously, I was fortunate enough to have my mom's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, and my biological father's side of the family as well. Yep. So what else can I say about growing up in a blended family? As I said, we don't really see this half sister, and so it was growing up. I always tell people, my brother this, my sister this, my dad this, my whatever, because that's how it was for us. Traveling, we all travel together. We love traveling. We all travel as a family when we were younger, and even up to the point of teenage age and then adulthood. We all travel as a family. We all made a lot of family memories and stuff. Um, Pictures, you'll see me there from a baby straight up. So, yeah, that was my family. And quite frankly, I don't really even call it a blended family unless that you're just talking about the technicality of it. Like for example, like if I was discussing at school the type of family I grew up, then I would know that it was a blended family. But other than that, like for us, we never really like said, oh, I in a blended family or a step parent family or whatever. It was just my family or whatever the case may be. So
I think too because you
started from a
started
very
from a
young
very young
age.
age because you find like when let's say for instance my mom and dad came like got together, let's say when Shanita was like 10 years old, that will then make it a little
Yeah.
different. But because she was literally in diapers, now learning to speak and stuff like that is like it's really like big family. It's just family. So yeah, that's our
But
dynamics.
I find like in some families, even though the child would have raised from a baby stage or a toddler stage or whatever, they still don't really connect or respect their step parent. And I find a lot of blended families, there's always that issue with the step parent or the step children. Um, either either way it could go where one person is not treating the other one with respect. Sometimes it's the step parent that treats the step children as like outsider or not fairly or whatever. And then sometimes the other way around where the children might not really respect or care for their step parent, even if I find a lot of cases too, it's not every case, but even if their other parent, um, was not present or was not around at all, they would still kind of gravitate to the parent that wasn't there. And I see that in a lot of situations. Even I was listening to a story online about this guy that said he was there for his stepdaughter or whatever throughout her entire life. I think he said he was there for her as a toddler or whatever, um, and then for graduation she invited pretty much everybody but him. She invited the mom, the dad, the siblings, and even the aunts, the grandmother, even her boyfriend, and she didn't invite him. And for me, I find that to be very like terrible, because if somebody just looking at the fact that somebody's there for you, like for me personally, I'm gonna gravitate to the person that has been there for me, and that's what I've been doing. Like I gravitate to who has been in my life. If I've had both fathers in my life, then I would gravitate to both fathers, because each one play a different role or whatever. But like I said, my biological father was in and out, mostly out, so I couldn't really gravitate to him as much as the person who raised me. But I find, despite the fact that a parent might raise you, and we've had situations too in our own family where I find, despite the fact that a parent might raise you and be there for you throughout the entire time you were growing up, sometimes they tend to gravitate to the person who was not there at all, or are there pretty like minor, like minimum, then minimum, like they were barely there and they tend to, but everybody's different. Everybody, do their own thing. But for me personally, and it's with family, friends, whatever, if somebody's there for me, that if you have my back, I have your back. It's as simple as that. So
sometimes I feel like, even in terms of what you just said about the child more gravitating to the absent parent more than their step parent, I find, to me, that's a bit ungrateful. That's just my opinion, because it's like the step parent is doing everything for you, and your biological parent, who's not in the picture, is getting all the recognition and stuff like that. And then how does that step parent feel when the child does that? At the end of the day, you are still human. You're still a human being, and it's like sometimes you might be, again, going back to one of our family members, you posting your biological father who don't do nothing for you, and the guy that is really taking care of you, you don't post him. Right? So like those things will affect the mental psyche. Obviously you're not gonna put it out on the child because it's a child, right? But as a human being, those things can also help then to cause further issues in the family as well.
But I feel like at the end of the day, I feel like you can't be stupid. You can't be like a walkover.
Right.
You can't let people walk over you. So especially when you get to the age of adulthood, I feel like if the person's not there, like if you've been giving your time and energy. And also another thing with the same story with the guy that I read on online, I believe that the other parent should have pointed it out, because it's not even only about the child, but you as a parent. This person came into your life and took care of your child as if it was their own child. Was there for them financially, was there for them in every other way. And it is up to you as the other parent to tell this child, well, this is the person that raised you. You know what I mean? So if you're going to dismiss who really put themselves on your life, you, even though they didn't have to, then you're going to have a problem. Because at the end of the day, it's not all about you. Somebody else sacrificed for you, so you should be more appreciative. And a lot of the issues come where the other person, the other parent, sees nothing.
Right.
Or they kind of go on the side of their child, and that's where the issues come. Because if somebody really makes that sacrifice for you, the most you could do, you can't make a child, right? Especially if it's an adult child, you can't really make them, right? But at least let them know where you stand.
Right.
Because then they will know, okay, well, this is, what is what. They will know, they will have an idea of what is what, right? But when you stand aside and look like, oh, you let everything slide, or you don't tell the child nothing or whatever, then you're going to make the other person feel like nothing, right? So.
But what I would like to ask you, Sha, is like, how do you feel about the step parent disciplining the step child? So like for example, like you, and well, let's put you at 10 years old again, and that come into daddy's life as a stepchild. How would you feel, or how do you feel about how your stepfather disciplining you, let's say at 12 or 13?
Well, the way I feel about it is I can't put myself in a position of being a 10-year-old child, being in that scenario, because I came into the picture when I was a baby, 17 months, like I said. So for me personally, if I see my father disciplining the other children and then he doesn't discipline me, then that kind of, for me personally, that would make me still feel away, because it's like, well, it's not equal treatment. Again, equal treatment goes across the board. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just about doing the good, or giving treats, or doing whatever for this child and the next child. It's also about discipline too.
Right.
because it shows now that it's an unfair type of thing. They know how cause you discipline them, but you can't discipline me.
Right.
Right? So it's still unfair. But if you come into a relationship now at an older age, like for example, if the child is 12 years old or 15 or whatever, you now come into the picture now as a step parent. You can't discipline nobody's child at that age. It's better to let the other parent do the discipline because you now step into the picture. It's different than if you raise the the child from a very 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 young age. Because now, if you raise me from a very young age, then everything, the whole dynamic of the family should be the same. It shouldn't be no all this or that. No, it should always be the same because then I can still see it um as
partial treatment.
Right. I can still see it as a partial treatment.
Yeah.
Right. And then even now, for example, I remember one time my father was disciplining me, and he didn't really raise me that much. Like for example, I was in and out. I would go and visit my other family and stuff. But he wasn't like, for me, I feel like he didn't really have that relationship to discipline me.
Right.
So because of that, even though he's my biological father, because of that reason, I was rebellious. So I rebelled because I was like, you can't discipline me because you don't even be there for me. See, but some people will say, oh, but as your biological father, he should be able to discipline. But no, he can't because if you're not there for the person, how you could discipline the person?
Exactly.
It can't work.
If you're there to do the good for me, how you want to do the bad to me?
Yeah, I want to he didn't do good. Like I said, my father was there for me in and out or whatever, so he did do certain things. But what I would say, he was mostly absent than present.
Right.
So there's no way you could come now even as a biological parent and discipline somebody when you weren't around just because you're the biological parent. It doesn't mean, like for me personally, it wouldn't work. And it didn't work, right? Because that's how you just rebel. But no, some people now would be like, oh, because that's your biological parent, that person can do whatever, right? Even if they weren't present. And that's what I don't understand, how people gravitate to people that was not there for them.
Right.
I guess it's because they're probably looking for the love that was
absent. Either. Yeah, it's true.
Like, I don't know, maybe that's what it is. But for me personally, if you weren't there, then there's nothing really going on. That's how you play. So
what I would say is that I think it's more so like, it's like I try to find out why you weren't here for me. So what I gonna do is just try to get as close to you as I can now that I'm older, or know that I basically got quote unquote sense or whatever. Is like, I wanna know why you left me, why you treated me this way. This how I looking at it. It might not be always the case because there are some children that raise with their fathers and go back to their mothers, and vice versa. So I guess too, it has to do with also like how, especially in terms of like, I think I'm going off topic here, but like when you have a single mother and a single father, you get away with murder with the mother, and when the mother let you do what you want, you go back to the father. So that also causes friction as well, and then I think I'm going off topic though.
But I just think that it might be a case where they might be looking for love, or it might be a case where they might be looking for acceptance or something, because the person was not there or whatever. But it's not even like they have the conversation. I don't know if they have the conversations. Maybe some do, some don't. I don't know. But it just never really added up to me how somebody could be absent in your life and then you decide, to still gravitate. You pretty much treat the person that was there for you like crap. But the person now that wasn't there, you kind of gravitate to them. But somehow, for some reason,
people do it.
That tends to be the story for most of the time. Yeah. It's like, well, relationships. You might have a man that treats you like gold, but you will gravitate to the person that treats you like dirt.
Right.
And it happens with both male and female. Right? So I don't know. It's just something that doesn't make sense, but that happens all the time. But for me, I was fortunate enough to have a very loving family that I grew up in, and I know each part of my family from different sides. I know my mother said, my father said, my father said. So for me, I had, you know, a relationship with each person. And like I said, with my biological father, he was in and out, but of course I will always still love my biological father too. And I'm always open up to having a relationship with my father whenever he's, you know, ready. Which whenever I go, you know, go back home to my country, he calls or whatever when he's ready. But I still don't feel like, you know, I still feel like it's a little weird. But anyway, you know, but I have loving parents, and that's what matters to me.
Right.
And that's it.
So you can share with us in the comments about your we would say like type of family, whether it's blended, whether it's nuclear or whatever, and let us know how you feel about it and your thoughts about what we shared today. So please like,
Share,
and subscribe. Until next time, bye bye.
bye.